couple minutes today to just talk to everybody about our value proposition as it's related to the political space. So before I get started, I am Brian Garrigan. I oversee agency and brand sales here at Simpli.fi. Simpli.fi, for all practical purposes, is a programmatic DSP. I think we're in our 11th year. In fact, we've grown pretty significantly over the past several years, and recently were majority acquired by Blackstone at a $1.5 billion valuation in early Q4. So something we're very excited about, and it's allowing us to position for further growth over the next several years. So a little bit about us. One of the things that's, well, I should say there's a few stats about our organization here on the top of this slide too, to give you some perspective around the type of activity we see consistently across the platform. But I think one of the things that's unique about Simpli.fi versus some of the commoditized DSPs that are in the space is that we do a few things uniquely different, specifically in the political space. And one being that not only are we a DSP, but we also have our own proprietary DMP. So we are in the data collection business as much as we are in the media execution business. And then we're plugged in, obviously, to all the programmatic inventory, and anything that we're going to talk about today can be applied to all of these different inventory sources that you see across the bottom of the screen. One of the things that I think is unique is the fact that when you have your own DMP, you can actually carve out some unique ways that you can kind of collect data. One of those ways that's unique to Simpli.fi is that when we collect or source data, we don't put it into a segment. We leave it in its raw or its unstructured format. And this gives us the ability to look at the performance metrics associated to the data itself instead of the segmentation of the data. This allows us to do a few unique things when it comes to carving out some interesting ways to target ad campaigns, and then also pulling some more granular information out on the back end to provide some more details in the attribution or performance metrics associated to the campaign. One tactic that becomes incredibly compelling for the political space is that what we've done is we've gone through and we've basically built a virtual boundary across 126 million households nationwide. And then we can see where all those households specifically exist and have them available for action or campaigns within our platform. We take it one step further, and then we apply our own identity graph to each one of those households. And that allows us to look at all the different devices within the household and potentially capture data from those different devices, implement against the inventory from those different devices, and ultimately report against performance metrics associated to all those different devices. It also allows us to get a better understanding of what one person might be doing on one device and get an understanding of how that's driving an action or some sort of performance against another device. So it really allows us to get a holistic look at the individual household level and build out some customized approaches to targeting that individual household. So what does this mean specifically for political, and how can this be kind of uniquely applied to the space? When we look to onboard first-party data, and I know one of the challenges in the space is that applying segment-based buys potentially tends to oftentimes lead to loss of data degradation. It doesn't potentially work for CTV because there's no scale applied to it when you layer it on top of the inventory. And the reporting tends to potentially be subpar at best. So when you work with us and we onboard first-party data, we fix a vast majority of those problems because we can onboard the data directly. We don't have to work with a typical clearinghouse. And when we onboard that data directly, we can match it at the address level at over a 90% match rate. Typically, when you look at what our competitors do or other organizations or clearinghouses offer, you're losing about, again, 40 to 60% of that data in that process. So when you can match it at 90%, it allows you to expand your reach. It allows you to cover the list that you're already valuing at a much more granular level. It allows you to have better budget allocation against that list and really kind of bring more scale, specifically when it's applied to CTV, into the mix and deliver against the households that you know matter most. We can do this, again, if you have your own first-party database, great. If you want to work with one of the top leading organizations, and these are just a few that we have partnerships with or know our leaders in the space, but if you want to work with one of the top leading organizations within the political space as well, they all have address level data, and we would be able to onboard that data at that address level and execute it at our 90% match rate, and then drive home the campaigns ultimately at that individual household level. So we're pretty excited about that. We think that's a real differentiator. Obviously, applying the entirety of the list or the vast majority of the list against a campaign versus what potentially may have been the normal in the past, and losing 40 to 60% of that audience is going to be a pretty big advantage. I think it's going to be an even larger advantage in the CTV space, as it's a space that's troubled or difficult to scale in general, and we'll be able to apply more coverage in the markets that matter most. We also can take it a few steps further when it comes to reporting or providing attribution. As a programmatic DSP and expert in the digital space, obviously we can report on just about any standard report metric that's out there, your CTRs, your CPCs, your VCRs. Obviously, those are all standardized, and we can pull that and provide any level of reporting across any of those and many, many more if needed. But if you want to offer a few unique looks at the campaign, because we pull in the data at the household level and potentially have our own DMP and household graph applied to that address, we can do some unique things. One being we can apply foot traffic attribution to any campaign. So said differently, if somebody's watching a political ad on the large screen, we want to know if we sent them into a specific location, maybe a poll, maybe a union hall, maybe an event or something like that, we would be able to provide that level of granularity in the reporting to give you insights into what type of ROI did we drive into that foot traffic campaign. We can also support third parties if needed, cubic-placed, great organizations, but we don't need to work with them, and the data that we would provide would be store level or individual location-based level insights, which is really exciting. The second piece would be that we can also apply sub-zip code level reporting. Really important, potentially congressional races or anybody that's trying to influence at a neighborhood level. We can extract it and report at a zip +4 level, giving you some real interesting information at what's actually going on at that hyper local or sub-local level. And then if you're looking to drive people from potentially the big screen online to maybe donate, fill out potentially a support form or do some other online action, we have the ability to give some detailed reporting along what the performance metrics look like after they watched the ad on TV and then went online and made that conversion. So some, I think, additional insights against what I would describe as already a audience that has been perceived as valuable, and it gives you a different look and more coverage potentially across those audiences within the political space. So this slide basically just kind of talks through the fact that if you're looking to execute any upper funnel, mid funnel, or lower funnel campaigns that would be associated to these types of political goals or any other ones that might be top of mind, we have a great product that can support that. So if you're trying to build a political campaign out and really drive awareness and have more of an upper funnel strategy associated to it, we're experts at that, and we have the ability to do that. And then as you're trying to drive influence potentially through the process, maybe reaching people that are more independent and trying to drive them to your side, or ultimately, cater to the core voters of your party, we have the ability to really kind of drive, the action items that would be associated to the goals that are of the utmost importance within the political space. And in addition, I think one thing that's really important to cover off on is that the political space has just a different type of demand, so to speak, for what the requirements would need to be for onboarding campaigns. And Simpli.fi recognizes that, and we've actually built out a dedicated team to onboard our political clients. And we have two sub-levels of that team. We have a red team and a blue team. So all the Republican campaigns would get pushed across one team. The Democratic campaigns would be pushed across another team. We've built up expertise around both of those sections so we can have better best practices applied to both. And then we understand that, there's a lot of instances where campaigns might need to go live in a couple hours. There might need to be, some conversations we have to have in off hours of the day. And there might be, and likely will be, all sorts of different needs to talk through what type of creative can and cannot be accepted, and what's the safest environment to implement those campaigns for not only the candidate, the agencies that might be involved, but also our organization. We are built, specifically to cater to the speed and the accuracy and the agility of political. And then there's two ways to work with us. One is self-service. So if you have a need to get into the platform, have a hands-on keyboard approach to implementing your programmatic strategies, We have a great product for that. And, in fact, it's been the same product that we use on our end to support the next portion I'm going to talk about, the managed service solution that we have. So we also have a great team in Fort Worth, Texas, that if you want to lean on us to build, optimize, and report back on everything that came together on the campaign, that's a specific service that we can offer as well. So that's about it, John. Again, I'm Brian Garrigan. My email is here. I'm happy to drop this into the Slack. So if anybody wants to reach out and has any questions or wants me to follow up with some more information, I'm happy to do that. But I appreciate everybody's time and the audience.
Yeah, great stuff, Brian, as usual, and appreciate your continued support.